How's it going, guys? Mike Murtis, GamerLogic here, and I just received a great message on my GamerLogic Facebook page that I thought would be a great discussion piece for a YouTube video. And not only doing a YouTube video of it will I be able to answer the sender of this message, but I figured you guys as viewers can put your comments on the situation too as far as what you do in these situations. So let's get right into the message here and read it. This message is from Joe, and he says, I've been watching a bunch of your YouTube videos today, and it made me think of an issue that is going on right now in my life, finding time to game. Lately, I haven't been able to find time to game, and have had a really hard time deciding what to play when I do get the time. Sometimes I spend so much time trying to figure out what to play that I end up not playing anything at all. So my question is to you, how much time do you spend each week or even each day gaming? Do you play before work or after work, late at night, only on the weekend? Do you have to make time for it, or do you usually have a block of free time that is used for gaming? So let's stop there and just kind of discuss the first few sentences here. First off, I totally get where you're at, Joe, with spending so much time trying to figure out what game you want to play when you do have the time that you end up not playing anything at all. I've run into it so many times. I'll walk into the game room, I'll walk down in the arcade, and I'll take a look at everything, and it's like sensory overload. Your brain doesn't know what to pick because unlike back when we were kids or when we were teenagers and we had limited funds and we were only able to get, very little or only so much, today's day and age, if you're in your 30s and you have cash, you can kind of get what you want, right? And that's where really I've been at. And because of that, my collection is huge, and I don't really know what I want to play. It's like, God, when I was a teenager, I could probably spot off like 15 things I'd want to play in what order and everything. And now I'm looking through the shelves and maybe I want to play an RPG. Maybe I want to play a first-person shooter. Maybe I want to play an action game or a point-and-click adventure game. Or maybe I want to play a retro game. Maybe I want to play something modern. And it drives you nuts. And the next thing you know, an hour has passed by. And during that hour, you keep getting more and more depressed trying to figure out what you want to play because, video games are supposed to be a source of fun. You're supposed to be able to enjoy them. So why are we having such a hard time picking them, right? So something I started doing, and I've been doing this the last couple of years, is I actually have a inventory list of all the games I own. And I will go through and pick 5 to 10 titles that I'd like to go through in a 6-month span and play. Sometimes of the same genre, sometimes of various genres to mix it up. And I will pick those 10 games, and if I don't really have the time to pop them in really quick and get a feel for how they're going to play, I'll actually utilize YouTube and look for Let's Plays on them. And I'll usually skip to the middle of the video because at that point they're hopefully in the middle of the game, and spend about a minute or two seeing how the game develops and going, is that something I want to check out, or is this game not what I expected it to be by the midway point in the game to be developed gameplay wise and plot wise where I thought it would be. And if that's the case, after searching that game, I take it out of the pile, I go to the next one. And usually in that pile of 5 or that pile of 10, I have a couple of good games I'll want to play and sit down and play. And another thing is, looking at those YouTube videos for just a couple minutes really gives you a good idea of how much time you're going to be investing in these games. If you can see the video is 25 minutes for this game, then that's something you're going to want to play when you don't have a lot of time, and that's not going to be too challenging, and you don't have to devote too much time to, so you can eventually get on to your next game. It's kind of funny, isn't it? When we were little, you didn't think of what the next game was. You just wanted to play what you had, you beat it, and then you got on to the next game. These days, we're programmed to already go to what's next. So rather than thinking and enjoying what's in front of us, we're already thinking, okay, I just got to finish this so I can get to the next game. It's kind of weird. But I definitely feel you on that. But try the 5-10 stack thing and try that and see if that helps you decide at all. Because I can tell you, man, I've been there. It is not fun trying to decide what the hell to play. And then when you finally do decide to play something, that one game you pick out and you put it in and it sucks or it's not fun, it ruins the whole experience for you. And like you said, you almost end up not wanting to play anything at all. So back to a few other questions here. How much time do you spend each week or even each day gaming? Honestly, I wish I had a ton more time to play. I think back to my teens and I think back to my 20s and even before that. Man, did I spend a crap load of time gaming. I could easily say I gamed once a day. When did that stop? That probably stopped in my mid-20s for me, right after Halo. I used to have people over to play Halo every single day, and we'd spend 4 to 8 hours doing it. And these days, there's no set time for me. I just kind of play it when the opportunity exists. And these days I find that a handheld game is actually a great time for that, because it's a game that I can pick up, and if something comes up, if I get a phone call or if I got music to work on or something work pops up, I don't have to worry about powering the game down and saving it. I can usually just close the lid on the Nintendo 3DS or the PS Vita, put it in suspend mode, and when I have time, I can get right back to the action. So handhelds lately for me have been really good for incremental gaming. Same thing with the Xbox One and even the PS4. Maybe not so much PS4. I haven't played it that much to really get a feel for it. But I like the fact on the Xbox One that the game is just running. It's there. It's good to go. It pops on almost instantly. That helps a lot these days, rather than trying to fire up an old school Nintendo game and pop the password in. That's a nice thing about the Retron 5, the fact that it uses save states and everything, is that you don't have to travel on an RPG to find that save point. You can just save and be done with it. As far as what days, though, I have time to actually game on, usually it is the weekends, and it depends on the game. It depends on how much the game grabs me. Sometimes even a half hour is enough for me to enjoy a game and then walk away with it and kind of know that it's there waiting for me and I can come back to it. I can't game before work because I can't get up early enough to do that. And I don't game too late because depending on what types of games I play, it actually puts my mind into like an overdrive and I just cannot sleep. Good example is Far Cry 3. I played the crap out of that game and somehow I made time for it. I didn't consciously want to go, okay, I'm setting time for here, here, and here. My mind and my body just decided, okay, I'm going to do an extended play of Far Cry 3. So 1 o'clock rolls around, and I'm tired, and I know it's time for bed. I got to work the next day. And I get in bed, close my eyes, and I think my body's asleep, but my mind is still playing the game. I could still see myself with the controller. I could still see myself sneaking around the jungle, sneaking around the beach, and still playing it. So I can't play games late at night because it affects my sleep, and then I'm tired the next day. I'm sluggish at work. I'm sluggish at everything, and then the last thing I want to do is come home and play a video game. I just want to go to sleep. Again, with the handhelds too, speaking of sleep, if you get the sudden urge that you're tired when you're relaxing and stuff, when you're sitting on the couch playing games, it's so nice to play something on like a 3DS, like Fire Emblem, for example. There were times I was just outright tired, but I thought I could play a game. Nope, can't do it. Shut the lid, took a nap or whatever, popped that lid back open when I had the opportunity, right back to where I was. But yeah, all in all, I wish I had more time to do gaming. It's just not there, and I get it in when I can. Do I regret not having enough time to game? Yes, but I don't let it weigh on me too much because it's just a thing of getting old, and something I look forward to, provided I live for another 30, 40 years, is the day when I can retire from the 9 to 5 grind and as an old man sit and catch up on those old RPGs or whatever that I was never able to play. So let's get back to Joe's message here. Last month, I completely played through Yakuza on PS2 and put over 30 hours into it, which took me several weeks. How thoroughly do you play through games? I know some people that play games as thoroughly as possible, complete all the side missions, try to get all achievements, etc. I have collected so many games that I've never even played. I estimated that if I were to play for an hour a day, it would probably take over 10 years to do a basic playthrough of every game I have, not including DLC achievements or every side mission. That seems like such an impossible task that I've considered getting rid of all my games and consoles. So kind of going back to picking out a group of 5 or 10 games. Again, this is something that, going online, seeing what the game is actually about rather than, looking at the back of the cover or something you've read in the past or something for some reason was just interesting to you. Going online and seeing what the game is like mid-game, that's going to be the thing that's going to grab you. And if it doesn't grab you, and it doesn't grab you to the point where you never, ever want to even look at it, get rid of the game. Don't get rid of your whole collection, because I know people who have done it and they've absolutely regretted it. And they got rid of their collections 7-8 years ago. And now they're into it and they're picking up those games that they sold 7 or 8 years ago, and they are paying 4 times as much as they paid back in the day when they were going to Game Crazy and stuff and finding them for 99 cents. But do get rid of the games that you look on YouTube that you have, or maybe have had time to pop in like 10 games just really quick and see what they're like and not enjoy. Because you'll find getting rid of those games and having the bad games out of sight makes seeing the good games easier. I've cleared out good chunks of my collection. Sega Game Gear is a really good example. I had every Sega Game Gear game almost, as well as 3 or 4 different Game Gears. I could barely see the screen. I could barely play them. And I really wasn't into the games. But there they were. They were there on a shelf next to the Game Boy games. And when I was trying to decide what I was going to play, I looked through the Game Gear games, even though I knew damn well that I wasn't interested in playing them. Got rid of them. Same thing with some older Atari stuff that I was never going to play. Same thing with certain PS2 titles, PS3 titles. Some of them ended up being rarer than others. They just didn't jive with me, so I got a decent amount of money with them, and I was able to put that back into the hobby or whatever else, bills or whatever. So it helps, and it helps to get rid of the fat, trim the fat out of your collection, basically. Another thing I highly suggest you do is if you buy games in bulk. If you were at a flea market and a guy was selling 15 games and 6 of them were sports games, but the other games were great. Get a collection of those sports games and just get them out of there. You'd be amazed how many sports games add up in your collection that you would have never, ever any want to play. But they just sit there, they collect dust. Yeah, they're worthless, basically. Donate them to Goodwill or something. Someone will get some joy out of them. But just those games out of your eyes and off the shelves will allow you to look at the games that you're actually interested in and wanting to play. Now, as far as how thorough am I in my games, again, when I was in my early teens, my 20s, I would try to do every single damn thing I could do in the game, because $60 was a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, $60 is still a lot of money. But I wanted to get every single penny out of those games. These days, having better jobs, having more of disposable income, it's sad, but I just play for the main storyline and that's it. Unless the game really, really grabs me, I will not spend a lot of time doing the extra side quests or getting the ultimate weapon in the game unless it'll make things easier for me in the end. The last game I really dove into, again, was Far Cry 3. That game just grabbed me, and I wanted to do everything in that, and it felt that it was worthwhile to do so. But there's a lot of games out there that, even though they have a lot of side quests and everything, it's just boring. And at the end of the day, you get the achievements for everything. I guess you got to ask yourself, do you care that you got all the achievements, that you completed it 100%? Or is it more of telling people, hey, I completed every single thing in that game? How many people are going to care? So it's just one of those things. End all be all, when you're playing a video game, you got to know when the stopping point is, and you got to know when you're happy with it. The other thing is, on the flip side of this, is that if there is other stuff to do in the game and you're just tired of it, you're not interested in it, but you like the game enough to one day go, I may want to come back to it, then leave the side stuff and come back to it later at some point when you're bored and you want to play a good game again, but you want to have some new content to it. That's the best way to do it. DLC, I avoid like the plague unless I get a Game of the Year edition that's somewhat interesting, or there is some extremely interesting DLC coming out for it. But DLC I see as the ultimate side quest, and the extra money spent into it is just not worth it. So I try to avoid it whenever possible. Sadly, developers these days make DLC a requirement if you want to see everything in the game. And for those, I generally avoid like the plague. But yeah, don't get rid of all your consoles and games. Just trim the fat of the stuff that you don't play and that just isn't interesting to you. And they continue the message that says, maybe I need to stop looking at games as a chore, which I definitely agree, to be completed, and simply take what enjoyment I can from it. What are your thoughts? Which I give you some of them. And I ask these questions out of interest, not meaning to be nosy or judgmental on how you spend your time. I ask knowing you're a person who is passionate for and an incredible knowledge of gaming. Thank you very much for that. Hoping to hear your thoughts on the matter. Well, Joe, I hope I helped you out with some of my thoughts on that. It is tough. It sounds so stupid, but it's true. It's tough to be a gamer, especially in the day where we can pretty much get our hands on a ton of stuff for cheap or mostly cheap. But definitely try the stack out thing like I told you. Check those games out on YouTube for just a couple minutes out of the stack you choose and decide what fat you want to trim out of your collection. But definitely don't sell your collection cold. I've seen so many people do it before and they end up paying for it. It's not worth it. So hopefully I answered your questions. And guys, maybe you want to weigh on some of this stuff too. So thanks for watching. And Joe, thanks for your message. Peace.